Hey, what's up, Liron here. Today I'm going to show you how you can paint realistic watercolors following a few simple steps. It's actually easier than you may think, and it's something I have shown you before. So what I have here is basically 4 values, right? Here we go, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have a light, we have a mid, and a dark. Now in the mid section we have a mid light and a mid dark. And what I want to show you is how, by following this value structure very easily, almost filling in the shapes, you can create a realistic impression. And this is something I go into in much more detail in my Watercolor Realism course, so be sure to check that out, link in the description box below. But let's get started. So what I did was I took this reference photo and I actually edited it so that you can see all the different washes we're gonna paint. Again, this is something I've demoed before, and it's just such a fun way to simplify the process for you. So the first thing I'm gonna do is start mixing in this light mid value, because I don't need to paint the white because I already have it on paper, right? So I'm gonna take a bunch of paint. I am using only neutral tint by Daniel Smith. It's just a really good, easy to use black color that you can make gray, you can turn it into whatever you want. Very straightforward process, and I'm gonna show you now the first layer we're gonna paint. This layer includes everything that is not paper white, and you will find the link to download my scan of this sketch if you want to follow along with me. And I'm gonna place the values here so you can see them. And what I'm gonna do is just paint that first layer. So look at how much I'm mixing, because people always go fast. They go too fast. They don't realize they did not mix enough. Let me phone silent. People never realize, especially in the beginning, that they did not mix enough paint, which is why they run out in the middle. Now, we're okay if this starts running out in the middle for the simple reason that this is a very simple mix. All we need is the black paint. So we're aiming for this mid value here. Now look at what we have here. We have an abstract pattern of bricks. That's the thing people have so much trouble with. Look at how I'm approaching this. For everything that's related to the wall, I'm just going to do it abstractly, just like I see it. A lot of people are scared of doing it that way. I'm not. So I'm going to show you. I'm just going to paint it as I see it. So this, for example, is just one straight line, right? But for everything else, that's pretty much a brick wall. I'm gonna bring in some water just to kind of help the paint move a bit. And look at what I'm doing. I'm painting this pattern, and I am, hopefully you can hear me well. The mic's not in the way, good. And I am leaving all of these gaps, right, for the light parts of the bricks. Now, one thing you can do, if you just want to get it to look a bit more abstract, you just do this, spray a bit of water, and it spreads it out. Okay, always, if you feel like you're too bogged down in the details, just spread a little water. Now, this wash is our first wash, which is painting anything that is not a highlight. So we have to be a little careful around this area, right? And just to leave a bit of a pattern, don't be scared of patterns. All you're doing is painting a pattern, okay? There we go. Paint around that window, but for the inside, I'm gonna fill the entire thing up, because look at what we have in the reference photo, and I guided you through this. So I'm showing you exactly what to paint. And we're gonna paint inside the window too, don't worry about that. And we can do it now if you want to. So we have this almost entire area that's gonna be filled in. I do recognize there are a few small highlights, okay? So, you can notice them here around this area. Now, one thing to pay attention to is shapes. The one way to truly guide yourself throughout this entire painting, and let me spray some water here on the entire thing. And I think it should dry light enough. I'm kind of feeling like I'm running the risk of going a little too strong, but that's probably just my imagination. But we'll see about that. If you focus on the shapes, and I made it very simple with this reference photo, that was the entire goal. Focus on the shapes, you will do a fine job. Even if your shapes aren't fully accurate, by just looking at them and striving to get them accurate, you will do a better job than most people who don't notice the shapes, okay? So rest assured, it's gonna be fine. This entire thing is a shadow. A mid-light value, rather, right? We're painting just that, again, just that mid-light value right now, okay? And you will see how it connects once we start adding more of the values. Go for the patterns. Again, do you see these here? Just follow the shapes you're seeing. Leave the highlights light. Don't mess with the highlights, right? So this area, we're going to have to paint around a bit carefully. This entire thing is dark, right? And look at how easy it is if I just focus on the shapes. I know some people may find this difficult, and that's okay. Make yourself familiar with the scene you're painting. But as long as you follow the shapes and patterns you see, should be good. Just leave the highlights. You see, even if your brushwork, I'm a little rusty, haven't painted for like a couple of days, so my brushwork isn't top notch. That's okay. Even with a bit of a shaky hand, bit of a, off technique, you'll be okay. And don't worry about it not looking good. It's not supposed to look good. Remember, we're in the first stages of this painting. All you really want to concern yourself with is just get those shapes down that you see. Okay, follow the shapes that you see. I made these photos for you. Again, you can find everything, a link to download below. I made these for you so you don't have to think too much about what to paint, but you can focus on just painting it. Okay, and this section is could be open for interpretation. I don't know how dark I'm gonna go with that foliage. Feels to me a little too strong, but we'll see about that. Here, and we're almost done with the first wash. Very simple. I'm telling you, you can do this. Okay, if you focus on shapes, values, and edges. And in this example, we barely care about the edges really. You'll do a fine job. These are all things I describe in the Watercolor Realism book. Once again, you want to support my work and you want to learn how to paint realistically, if so far you haven't believed that you can do it, you can. Trust me. I know many people are like, yeah, that's for later. Right now I'm not prepared. Nah, screw that. Try it out. It's going to be another tool in your arsenal. Even if you don't want to paint realistically, if you just want to paint, look, I'm just following the shapes, okay? I designed everything for you. I'm following the shapes. I edited the photo. That's all I'm doing, okay? Even if your ultimate goal isn't realism, but rather impressionism, looseness, right? You'll get a lot out of it. And I always say, don't shy away from something because you don't understand it or you're scared of it. Learn it, master it, and then have the choice. Use it if you want. And that's, I think, one thing that can separate a beginner to watercolor from an intermediate to expert. That willingness to try something a little different and believe in yourself and know that it could be just another tool in your arsenal. You're not committing to doing things one way or another, okay? So that's really important. Now we're gonna let this dry for a few moments and you'll see once it dries, it's gonna flat out. I don't know if it's gonna be as light as this. Maybe it'll be a bit darker, but we still have enough range to work with. So let's give it a few seconds. So everything is dry and I hope you're as excited as I am because in this stage, things become really neat. So far, we painted one value. Look at what's going to happen once we add another value. And this is where the realistic impression starts clicking in and you're like, whoa, okay, there's some depth in here. There are some things I haven't noticed before. Now for this wash, it's easier, it's smaller, and we need a bit of a darker mix. So something like this that looks like that when wet is good. I know it looks very dark. It's going to dry lighter, of course, so we need to make sure that we push it enough to show as opposed to this. Now, if you're scared, if you're unsure of the value you mixed, one thing you can do is just glazes. Do one glaze that's erring on the side of caution, and then do another glaze that's a little darker. You know, take it step by step. It's okay. Maybe I'll need to darken some sections here again after the fact. So let's get to it. So I'm gonna start by painting just what I'm seeing. Okay, you're seeing this is the next layer. I'm showing you exactly what to paint. And if you follow that recipe along with me, guess what result you're gonna get? You're gonna get a realistic result. I know many people live under the impression that they can't. Painting realistically is not me, not what I do. It's not something I can do. I'm one of these people who, was never that big of a genius when it comes to art, painting, never really that good. I'm adding this. This I don't see, but it looks cool. Was never that good, so I'm gonna stick to, you know, and not to say that people who aren't good paint impressionistically. I love impressionism, but you know, that fear, I'm not good enough to do this. You actually are. I know it can be extremely surprising for some people. Look, I'm just following the shapes I see. I don't even care what this is I'm looking at. It's probably the lower part of another window. Let me drop this line here. Is it a graceful line? No, it's not. I care? Not really. Let's drop some of this. I'm using my palette with my pinky, and you can see me doing this. It's all the way down. So again, you are one of the people who can. You are. The main difference is just the willingness to try. And one thing I'll say about, you know, because people start, now we got to a point where people see my old work and they realize I made quite a bit of progress. And they start to wonder, you know, how I did it. And I have a long way to go, don't get me wrong. I feel like I'm not necessarily a master yet. Some may disagree, but mastery to me is something a little different. Not very different from where I am, by the way. A little different. But some people may disagree, that's okay. But to me, the one differentiating factor was I was always, and still am, always willing to try. I'm trying abstract. I'm trying everything, you know? Just give me a technique, give me an idea, and I'll give it a go. And especially things where I'm scared of it, that's when I recognize, oh crap, I need to work on this. Because if I'm scared of this, if I'm deterred by this approach, technique, whatever, where else does it meet me in my painting and stifles me and makes me not get the result I want? So one thing, very abstract wet in wet patterns. Getting waves to look not just good, but like they actually look, right? Things like this scare me, and it's one thing I'm gonna work on. The more abstract, the better. Can I get this smooth wet in wet feel? Am I going too dark? I don't know. Let's add a bit of water just to err on the side of caution, because this may be a little too dark. One more thing you can do, just give it a spray, spritz. You're feeding it a bit more water, and then you slightly lighten the go. Okay, that's good. That may be too light now. We'll see. We'll figure it out. Again, if you're scared, just work in fewer glazes. Okay, that's perfectly fine. Just divide it into more layers. Actually, let me take a risk and just do this. Kind of lift a bit of the paint to make it just a little lighter. Again, you can err on the side of caution. You won't have to do that. And don't forget, this isn't your one and only go, and then you can never attempt this scene again. It's okay if you mess it up. This is my first attempt right now filming, but sometimes I will really dislike the result I get, and I'll just do another filming session, you know? That's perfectly okay. I'm not one of those people that will film every tutorial 5 times. I will admit most of them are the first go. Because some people are like that, and I actually admire that. People's patience with painting the same thing multiple times and make sure they get a nice result. I'm not one of those people. I will get extremely bored, but I am willing to do it if I really want to paint a specific scene and I feel like the result isn't up to par. So there we go. And this isn't necessarily the most interesting approach, but you know what? Sometimes the boring things are the best. What do I mean by that? Boring investments. You know, I'm not an investment specialist by any stretch of the imagination, but I do know that when something is too exciting, some caution is warranted. When something's a little boring and safe, that's actually a good thing. Usually that's a good investment. So these processes, you know, very often, they aren't inherently exciting. And you think to yourself, oh, this is boring. Am I cheating because I'm painting it in stages like this, or because I analyzed the photo and got the values out of it? Am I cheating? No, you're not. You're not cheating. You're following a process. And some of the best work ever produced was done this way. So have some faith and believe in yourself, and you will make it. Is hard work that has nothing to do necessarily with the skill. Is that wrong? Do you have to, in order to be proud of a result, do you have to work really fast and in one go and avoid any of these, you know, sort of methodologies to get the result you want? Heck no. You do whatever works for you. If you do want to get a standout result, you follow a process, you're far more guaranteed to get it. And there are some details in the bricks. I'm gonna, again, go at it very loosely, right? Wherever I see some dark bricks, because remember, I'm showing you what to paint exactly. Everything you're seeing on the screen right now is something you should paint, right? That's a part of this layer. In fact, there's some I missed. You know, this layer is smaller, but you can miss more about it because of how many small details there are. Now, I'm not following it exactly, 100%. I'm also simplifying some things, loosening up some things. That's okay. But you see the impression is beginning to be created. You can tell there's depth. You can tell all sorts of things here. We're already telling a story. And we're getting to the final stretch, which is that kind of foliage underneath. We'll get that in now. For this, I need to mix a bit of a larger quantity, like that. And let's see. So I'm just going to cover up the entire bottom. Again, I don't know how dark I'm going to push it eventually. I will probably keep most of it just this dark. And let me show you. I'm going to do something else. Remember what I told you once? If you're in doubt, just spray some water. I'm going to follow my own advice and do this. So let me show you. The reason I'm doing this is I'm looking to abstract or abstracticize, I know that's not a word, some sections here that are a little to the side of the painting, and I don't want them to pop too much. I don't want a strong contrast. I don't want a harsh edge. That's when you just kind of go like this with a bit of water, again, and you will loosen it up. Now, did I miss a bunch of shapes? Yeah, probably. So let me go at it real quick. This may not be as dark as it needs to be, but that's fine. Let me add some lines next to it. Can you see that this actually includes multiple? And I'm using, again, my pinky on the palette to help guide me. And again, you don't even have to draw every detail, right? You just decide whatever works best for you. I do see some of these, wall details there. And bricks. There are some very complex patterns in this shape embossed on the wall. Again, we're taking it a little looser, but you can devote some more time and attention to these. And now, for the grand finale, we're going to allow this, and this should probably also be just a little bit looser. We're going to allow this to dry and come back with the final wash. That's going to be magnificent. So let's let it dry. So this is all dry, and we'll open up the last photo. And now, mind you, I'm using both photos together. I'm always looking at the finished product that I aim for and the specific layer I'm painting. So you don't have to look at just one reference photo, right? And this is really cool. We're doing great, doing fantastic. Again, if you want to learn how to do this, check out the Watercolor Realism course. Make this the day you decide to allow yourself to try this technique. I know many people do want to try it out, do want to aim for a more realistic approach, and in the course I show you exactly how to do this multiple times with multiple processes too, not just one. There's portraits, there's cityscapes, there's clouds, there's a bunch of stuff, and we're diving really deep on every one of them. So now this is, in theory, the easiest wash. There are some complexities in it because this scene is very interesting. So one thing you'll notice is this area, we are supposed to leave a few of these bricks. You can tell a few of these lines running across. I'm actually going to leave this as dark as it is now. Remember, compositionally speaking, this is probably our focal point, this big window. I don't want attention to run into this lower section, so forget about it. I'm just going to work on my focal point and add the darks there. So notice this here, some darks in it, right? Let me move this a bit more. Is it in the frame? No, it's still not in the frame because I just want to lean in a little closer. That's the difference, by the way, between filming and just painting for myself. There will always be a superior process when I paint for myself, and I can do this, really stick my head close paper. But in case, yeah. You see, I'm leaving a few of the previous wash that's there. You can tell it's just kind of, there's a rocky texture there. Again, look at both the final reference photo and the current stage you're at, which is now the last stage for us. And And if you followed my drawing, you should have your guidelines there. Some may be less visible, and that's something people ask about a lot. Like, how can you paint once you're not seeing the pencil lines? And the answer is you actually just paint. This is something that's taken me a while to figure out, but with time, you'll know how to orient yourself on the paper without seeing each and every line. In fact, I would argue that if you can't do that, it's a skill worth developing because you're just not as dependent on the sketch. And more importantly than the freedom it gives you, it actually makes you more focused on what you're doing. So you're on purpose, you're really looking at the details you're painting, and you become far more observant by doing that. So I highly recommend you develop that as a skill in and of itself. And now look at this. This is going to be really cool. And we know the value. It's just going to be black, right? Dark. We know the areas. We answered. We solved all of our mysteries. Now, some people may say, you know, I wanna paint in color. That's perfectly okay. And I'm showing a bit of that too in the course. But for starters, walk before you can run. Okay? Just get started. These aren't just training wheels. It's a methodology that you'll end up using all the time. I'm using this for a lot of my more accurate paintings, like the Car 99 that I've shown you, and the OCD painting that I've recently shown you. I'm using this as a methodology. Now, I feel like dropping a bit of a line here. I see a bit of it, but I'm making it a little more prominent. So this isn't crutch. This isn't training wheels. This is how I paint sometimes. When you really want to be careful, you know, there's no way around it. People want to paint the best painting with the loosest or quickest technique, and it's just not how it works. You know, devote more time, more attention, more care. Like, I could have devoted more care to these details right here where I'm working on them. Again, had I not filmed this, not to use it as an excuse, but I'd probably have a bit more of focus ability, get that finer, you know, detail in. But look at the depth. I love windows for that reason. You get an instant sense of depth. This is just fantastic. I absolutely love this reference. Now, we're going to have to be a little gentle here. What I normally do is just rotate, and we can do that. I just want to get a few of these lines here. These are lines that are, and I'm going to this just to spread them out a bit. These are lines that are usually easier to get sideways, you know. And just observe. What are you seeing? What patterns are you seeing? So I'm seeing definitely a pattern here under this posing, decoration, whatever it is. Under the white, there's a shadow, okay? That's not only, again, should you look on the layer you're currently painting, but look at how it relates to the rest of the thing we painted. You pretty much have to do this. So again, open both references together. Don't be scared. Work hard. You're not cheating if you're analyzing the layers, if you're really trying to see things accurately, if you're desaturating, posterizing the photo, whatever it is you're doing. By the way, if you're curious to know how I did this, how I edited the photo this way, let me know and I can explain it. It's actually quite simple. I can explain it like real fast now. I basically isolate the color with select, color, select. You go to Photoshop, select selective color, I think it's called. And you just select a specific, right, a bit of paint here. You just select a specific value. It knows how to do that. And then what you do is, and this was a bit of a mistake, actually, but that's fine. It's not the end of the world. This shadow should be to the left, but it's okay. Selective color, I believe it's called, something like that. And then you choose just or is it color range? I think it's color range. You choose a specific color range, which is just this value, that value, whatever. So I selected everything that's not the white, and then everything that's not this light value, and then everything that's not this dark value, and every time I'm showing you what I paint in this stage. So it's a really cool process. Again, I can show it to you in more detail if you're curious to know how to do this for your own photos. But yeah, so I do see a bit of that here, but again, I'm not going to push it too far because I'm still interested in keeping my focal point the window, right? So we're pretty much done here. Now it's just up to, you know, whatever you're seeing and you want to emphasize or make a little more visible. To me, I'm going to tread very carefully right now because I know I'm done. I'm pretty much done, and this looks really, really good. So I'm just gonna sign it real quick here, the bottom left corner. And I will thank you for joining me, and make this the day you decide, finally, try this. Give yourself permission. Realistic watercolor is not just for advanced people. It's not just for a specific type of people. It's for anyone and everyone who wants to give it a go. And I will encourage you to check out the Watercolor Realism course. So many of you have gone through the frustration-free watercolor course, have not checked out the Watercolor Realism course. You should give it a go. And I will take this opportunity also to thank you for watching, and thank everyone who supports me on Patreon. Could not be more grateful for, you know, allowing me to do the thing I do, and make a living of it, out of it. And just you, the viewer, and the person who comments, and the person who likes this video. I really do appreciate it. And I will see you in the next one. Until then, take care and keep painting.
Thank you.